On today's episode of Locked On Clippers, we just have found out who is going to make the conference finals or who's going to be in the conference finals. Dallas, the team we lost to, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are beating the Denver Nuggets. What have we seen about those two teams and those series that affect the Clippers and how you want to build the roster for next year? And reacting to one of the lead assistants for the LA Clippers moving on to a new team. Going to be talking about it all on today's Monday edition of Locked On Cancun Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and just finished my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I go live after every single night of games to talk about them all. And, of course, more Clipper content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Well, I want you to let me know, after watching the series that have just taken place and seeing now who's in the conference finals, the Dallas Mavericks, who we lost to in 6, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, what have you learned about this playoffs that makes you think, maybe I was wrong, the Clippers weren't that far off, or maybe I was dead wrong and we're really far off and we need this and that? Give me your thoughts on that in the comments. And this episode, before we get started, is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best daily fantasy sports platform in North America. All you got to do is download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right. So, Clipper Nation, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you guys are enjoying your vacation. Although, for many of us, we still have to work. It's not vacation, but it's vacation for the Clippers and vacation for all of us mentally from the Clippers, except if you're me and are still on here talking about it multiple times a week. And this begins our new slate of episodes. So again, I am still, taking episode suggestions. It is the summer. There hasn't been many, free agency is nowhere near begun. So again, I'm taking suggestions. So keep throwing those in the comments as well. But we're going to be talking about, and I know it's going to sound a little weird, but we're going to be talking about those other series and what it showed me. Because I think what you see every year a team wins a championship is every team in the league that wants to contend, in terms of when they build their roster, they're thinking, how do we stop that team? When it was Shaquille O'Neal's Lakers, every team was trying to stack up on big, certain huge dudes that these are the kind of guys, and this is not to disrespect those players because they're not bad at basketball or not good enough to make today's NBA. I don't disrespect NBA players like that in any generation. But I will say this. Those archetypes like the Eric Dampiers, Sagana Jops, those guys that Dallas had for Shaq, Todd McCullough, like these big guys, Greg Ostertag, to just be a big body to absorb blows and defend in the post. Because that's the thing. I might have to go check the tape and see. They might have been good post defenders, but that's not something that's valued today. However, since since Shaq won those championships, they valued it then. Obviously, people were trying to counter the Warriors. How can we have as much switch everything personnel so we don't put the defense in rotation against good shooting? And now after Jokic has won, everyone's like, we need multiple big bodies, because the last time Jokic got limited was against the Lakers in the bubble. So the teams, in terms of Minnesota, for example, right? They kind of set up their team to compete against the Nuggets. 3 big bodies. And when I say big bodies, I mean good big bodies. The Clippers have just 3 big bodies, but only one of them is serviceable in a playoff setting. And even then, sometimes he has his struggles, and that's Ivica Zubac. The fact that we're like, we should have played Daniel Tice more. Like, look, we got Daniel Tice off a buyout. He's a 6'8" backup center that's been in the league for many years. Like, I love DT. I think he had a really solid season, all things considered. But what Minnesota has, and this is the big takeaway, right? The Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. What do they have in common? In my opinion, in Minnesota's case, it's not even arguable. But I would put Dallas after the trade in there too. Especially how the two guys I'm about to talk about complement their stars. Those two teams have the best big rotation in the Western Conference, maybe in the whole league. I mean, when you look at Minnesota, you have Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns, and Gobert. When you look at Dallas, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively were the main reason that they beat the Thunder. They crushed them on the glass. They had more rim protection. It was just too much of a weight on Chet Holmgren for the Thunder. And Dallas having those two big bodies, those athletic big bodies, and then you had PJ Washington, who was a bigger forward. The Thunder had the same problem the Clippers had. You know, we were talking about all season, our biggest guy at that big forward spot is Kawhi Leonard. Their biggest guy at that spot was Lou Dort, and Lou Dort is usually guarding the point of attack. So they were really thin there, and PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and Derek Lively, I think, and even Derek Jones, I think these guys all were the reason that they got over the top against the Thunder. But I also think that, you know, Kyrie Irving, he kind of still did the same thing that he did in the Clippers series in terms of the first half he'd be quiet. He had less second half explosions against the Thunder because I think Jalen Williams is a better guy to guard him than what we had. And plus, Mark Daigneault wasn't switching certain small guards onto Kyrie and Luka, which is, you know, when a coach does, we always talk about Ty Lue, right? And he switches everybody. Like he'll switch everybody but the big man. OKC was a little bit more cautious, like we're going to show our guards like Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins and those guys on Kyrie and Luka. We're not going to let them switch. So then it ended up being like sometimes, you know, guys like Derek Jones and PJ Washington would get shots in the short roll and stuff like that. But overall, Kyrie Irving being a second star, I think the Thunder kind of lacked that in terms of creation, even though the stats for Kyrie weren't that great. But the main takeaway I had from the series was size. And the Clippers, you know, I was naive enough, to be honest, during the course of the season to believe that without the power forward thing, like I was like, every roster has holes. We'll be able to get along fine. Nah, you look at the teams that are still around. They have a lot of youth and size. And the stars are on these teams like Halliburton, Tatum, Luka, Ant. The one thing everyone's talking about after the weekend is one of these young players that's under 30 years old. The oldest one is what? Is who? Tatum? 25? Ant-Man's 22. Jason Tatum just turned 26. Luka's 25, and then Halliburton's like less than that. So a young superstar is going to win their first championship. And that doesn't mean that the Clippers have to have a young superstar, but the thing is our team is clearly too old. This era, it's back to fast-paced basketball like it was in the 80s and prior. And yeah, the younger players are going to thrive in that environment more, and also durability reasons. You know, the young players like the Ants and, you know, Jokic is in his prime. These guys are the ones that you want carrying your team throughout the course of a season because they can play 65-plus games and you can rely on them, plus a playoff run. So that's where Kawhi not being super reliable hurts us. But my main takeaway from this segment, I know you might be thinking, I didn't come to this pod to listen to you break down Oklahoma City and Dallas. The point was the size of those two teams lets me know that we honestly very majorly need to upgrade the backup five and hopefully try to go for an athletic guy, or we could try to give Kai Jones a shot and see if he can maybe be that guy. But I think we should, you know, it's like, okay, is Musa ever going to get a chance? Like, if we're not going to use these guys, let's trade them. You know, I'm being serious. Like, I don't want to trade them because I really think that the 2-1-3 era, look, I'm just going to be honest with everybody. The 2-1-3 era is cooked. Like, you look at these teams and you look at how they're defending, there is no way a team that employs Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden as the three best players, even if they're healthy, is going to have the juice to get enough easy baskets against this kind of level of opposition. Minnesota sunned us all year long, besides that one game where we did play really good defense and we held them to a poor shooting game. But to me, watching the way that they played, I mean, look, I was very confident the Denver Nuggets were going to win the championship, and I kept mentioning Denver this, Denver that. And I was wrong. I was big time wrong. The Clippers, you know, even if we had beaten Denver, it wasn't guaranteed that they were going to go all the way. And our matchup against Denver did get better with Harden. That was something I was wrong on. James Harden definitely put some pressure on their defense that we didn't see in the past. But Minnesota, they clearly were superior. You win a game 7 on the road, you go up 2-0. They had the deeper team. And I think, obviously, point of attack defense is something the Clippers need to improve on. And size. The main takeaway is that the size of the Mavericks and the Wolves is why they're in the conference finals, primarily to me, outside of their number one options. Like, you know what? The number one option thing is always number one. I think people, they want to say, oh, but this, then that, they had help in this. No. Yes, they had help. You can't win championships without help. All this. You can't go far without help. But it's all about those number one options leading. And Luka and Ant-Man deserve a lot of credit. So the main takeaway from this segment, the Clippers need more size and youth and athleticism. We talked about that previously, but it's even more abundantly clear now after watching who has made the conference finals. And coming up, going to be talking about some more things I noticed on the Dallas Mavericks that in this series that made me have second thoughts about the Clippers. And then also, I kind of want to comment on OKC because, yeah, it's the offseason and we get to reevaluate life here. And we're 5 years into the trade. Let's talk about that. I got to tell you a little something about Yahoo Finance, our official sponsor of this episode. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one spot instead of them getting so jumbled up so you don't even remember where to go to find them? Sometimes you'll be like, oh, I put them here in my notes. I put them in this computer. I put them on this. Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from all your accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. So, let me get right to it. Do you want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything that's getting in your way, and financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you have access to the news, data, and tools that you are going to need in order to help reach that goal. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. I got to tell you a little something about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and here is how it works. All you got to do is pick more or less on two or more players' stats and watch the winnings roll in. So, for example, you could take, for this upcoming Eastern Conference Finals, you could take Jason Tatum more points in Game 1, and then Halliburton more assists, something like that. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason and now the conference finals and finals. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, and more today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, so talking a little bit more about the Western Conference playoffs and how it's shaken out. And by the way, I think that Clipper fans should honestly not feel bad about the way this season ended. Of course, it sucks that Kawhi got hurt. That's the most frustrating thing because we thought this was the year we were going to see it. The wooden door is still next to me. Hasn't been knocked on in a couple of weeks, and the knocking still didn't end up working. It ended up working for Kawhi's best regular season as a Clipper in terms of health, but not the long haul. So I tried everything. It didn't work. But I don't think that this was the year. I think top 3 seed. Again, Dallas has a chance to prove me wrong on that, and so do the Pacers. But come on, the Pacers are not. There's 3 teams that can win the championship. That I like. All due respect to the Pacers, they're not winning. So there's a 3 seed, a 1 seed, and a 5 seed in the running. If the Dallas Mavericks win, they become one of only 3 teams to do it. They are the exception. However, they do have something in common with that 95 Rockets team, big midseason acquisitions. In the Rockets' case, it was Clyde Drexler, which is much bigger than Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington. But again, what this taught me too is us Clipper fans, I think this was abundantly obvious after we lost, but we completely underestimated P.J. Washington and Gafford. Mainly P.J. Washington, and that goes for me. I knew who Gafford was, but P.J. Washington playing at this level, shooting threes the way he has in both rounds, it's been ridiculous. I don't think anybody could have foreseen that as Clipper fans. I don't think Dallas fans even foresaw him shooting threes that well. It was insane. But, it does make me feel a little bit better that a Harden and Kawhi-less Clippers team lost to the Thunder. lost to Dallas in the same amount of games as the Thunder. So I still stand by that we probably could have beaten Dallas healthy. I still stand by it fully with a healthy Kawhi. I just don't think we're going to beat Minnesota. There's nothing that I see that makes me think we're going to beat Minnesota. I think we had a chance against Dallas, but who knows? Who knows? I think a healthy Kawhi gets us over the top against Dallas. And I think most Clipper fans would agree on that. But it changes the dynamics of things, Anyway, the pace that we played in game 1 that we won, we're not playing that pace with Kawhi. Not with James Harden and Kawhi era together. Only with Russ in the beginning of the season were we playing that kind of pace with Kawhi. But, yeah, as far as the Thunder trade, I guess let's evaluate that, right? So as far as what I learned about the Clippers in terms of the Dallas OKC series, my first point was more about both series and what I learned. But from the Dallas series, it's that, we could have beaten Dallas with Kawhi. We took him to 6 games without him. I think a fully healthy Kawhi. People that mention Kawhi Leonard in games 2 and 3 and oh, you had him. No, we didn't. That's a shell of himself. And that's why he stopped playing. If you watch OG Anunoby in game 7, he looked like he was giving it a go, and he looked even worse than Kawhi. So, when you can clearly tell, it's not I'll give you an example. It's not like Paul George in the season or James Harden when they had the shoulder and groin injuries respectively, and they had some games where they were very good and then some games they weren't great. It's dude, we see you guys do this healthy. So, I'm not going to give you the pass of the injury. Same thing I was saying about Luka. And I'm saying about Luka the first 2 rounds. It's always he's exaggerating when he's missing, or it's just a weird time that he chooses to. Luka is I think he's healthy enough to win a championship. Let's put it that way, if he can perform. And my point is that Kawhi Leonard at his best, fully healthy, I think we could have beaten Dallas. I just don't know if we could have beaten the Timberwolves. But let's see. If Dallas goes all the way, then who knows? Matchups are a thing, though. Styles make fights. And I think our matchup with Dallas was better than Minnesota. It might have even been better than our matchup with OKC. OKC's speed was a lot for us. But in the playoffs, who knows? I mean, it would have been interesting to see how Terrence Mann could have guarded SGA, although he has done a decent job on SGA. Because SGA is quick, but he's not the quickest. So that's where Terrence Mann can be really good. But as far as the trade, right, we're 5 years into this, right? And the Thunder have not made a conference finals yet. We have. We've made the playoffs more. So far we have won the trade still. The thing is, this is where the Thunder's part of the trade kicks in, and the good part. And now it looks like we're going to be worse than them for years and years to come. And I will say there's a really bittersweet feeling watching how great Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has become. Would he have been able to develop into this with the Clippers? Probably not. But if he's just playing alongside Kawhi as his only star, what makes me think he couldn't develop into being still a great, amazing player? The guy just put in the work. He got better every year. And we saw a lot of potential in year 1, He had the mid-range game. He had the length and size. He had the, under control when he was dribbling the ball and pick and roll and here, this and that. He needed to work on his shot and his bag and his confidence. And he's really improved in every single facet. And I never in my wildest imagination would think that he would be this good. But the thing is, with Kawhi Leonard at his apex on the table and the Clippers organization, you don't say no. You don't say no. So I'm not saying I regret the trade, but I am a little bit butthurt that Kawhi Leonard wanted a second star so badly off the jump and didn't give it a year to see, you know what? Okay, we might not have a contending team this year, but we're pretty damn good. I'm joining a 48-win team, and we're going to know what we need in the offseason. And SGA, he just it's almost like they neglected what he could become. And I didn't think he would average 30 points a game, but I thought that he could be an all-star. It was he was very good. So that part's really unfortunate. However, my moral of the story is this. Until the Thunder make the conference finals, we still won the trade, right? Because it's about who goes further. It's not about what's the criteria for who wins trades, who ends up benefiting the most, right? And while we might be in one of the worst positions in the league now, and they are probably in the best, or one of the best, top 5 easily. I'd put them in the top 3 for the coming years. But there will be tough conversation with the Thunder once you're going to have to max Chet and Jalen Williams out. But I take it 1 year at a time. I take my life 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time. So if you're a Thunder fan, I'm only looking at next season. And the Thunder, it's funny, they need to improve on the similar things the Clippers need to improve on. They need a 4. They need a backup 5 that's better than what they've got. The Clippers need to do that. So 5 years in, we have still won the trade. That is the moral of the story. But, yeah. Man, we really traded all that for Paul George after coming off 2 disappointing postseasons in a row. Oh, great example. Talking about injuries. Paul George's shoulder injuries against the Blazers. I want every Clipper fan, any Clipper fan that has League Pass, I will give you a challenge. Any Clipper fan that has League Pass, right? You can go up to watching games from 2013 on it. So all the games from the 2019 playoffs are still on there. If you can't find them on YouTube, they're on there. And YouTube has been pillaging games off the internet. So like, Adam Silver sucks for that, and the league sucks for that because they want like control over what they release. Yet they've literally deleted thousands of games off the internet from the past, which is ridiculous. But if you go to NBA League Pass and you watch the 2019 playoff series, I challenge any Clipper fan, now that we've had Paul for 5 years, go watch that series, and here's what you're going to see. In game 1, he looked like his shoulders were really bothering him, right? He shot awfully. And the commentators, watch it on the local feed. Don't watch it on the national feed. Watch it on the Thunder's broadcast with Fisher and Michael Cage, former Clipper Michael Cage, I might add. And listen to what he's saying, and you can see the truth. The first game, he's massively rusty. And then in the second game, he starts cooking in the first half. Then in the second half, he starts that over-dribbling and isolation stuff. Mo Harkless ripped him at half court, and it was a huge turnover that changed the entire momentum of the quarter. And Westbrook did a lot of the same momentum-changing turnovers too. And it was detrimental. You put both of them on the court with their timely turnovers, and it was detrimental. And then he did not play very well in games, I believe, 3. It was game 3. Game 4, he was pretty good, and Russ was awful shooting the ball. And then game 5, Paul wasn't bad, and Russ was pretty bad shooting the ball. But Paul, the point is he was inconsistent. He was very inconsistent, which is exactly what we say about him when he's healthy. So that the shoulder stuff, I do agree that he was probably in pain. But, like, come on. We see you do the same stuff healthy. You don't get a pass. Anyway, go watch that series, though, and get back to me on it. And tell me if I'm right. Because in the second game, when he starts going off in that first quarter, Michael Cage is like, oh, my God, you can see he looks better now. He just started making mistakes in the second half. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, coming up, though, going to be talking about the latest news in the Clippers. Dan Craig, no longer with the team. Going to be talking about what that means coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. It's the best time to bet right now. Conference finals coming up. That's $150. Yeah, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. All right, so some breaking news, or should I not breaking news? It was breaking news yesterday. Dan Craig, our assistant coach, associate head coach, 4 years with the Clippers staff, with Ty Lue, is now moving on to Chicago to join Billy Donovan. Must have gotten a better deal. Sad to see him go. Everyone's talking about, like, he was our defensive mind. He was our defensive coordinator. So, and I looked up, like, stuff about that, and I didn't really find it. It's just something, I guess, that's spread from people that know the inner workings of the Clippers. And, like, here's what I'll say about that. It sucks to lose a good assistant coach, but it's very hard from the outside to, like, judge the value of an assistant coach because we don't see the interpersonal relationships. We don't see what part of the schemes he's the mastermind of and all that. We've been told he's the defensive guy. And here's the thing, our defense wasn't that good this season. So, like, at the end of the day, Dan Craig, like, it doesn't matter what I almost cussed, what freaking coach you have. It's about the personnel first on your team. And I mean, the Clippers have decent defensive personnel. They don't have great defensive personnel. You rely way too much on your best player defensively. You traded good defenders for a poor defender that was good for 2 months, decent for 2 months, and everybody goes nuts about it because he gets a couple of steals. Nah. James Harden's defense is not good. Like, let's not kid ourselves. He can be serviceable in over periods of time, but it's not championship stuff. He needs a great defensive team around him. We don't have that. Then Paul George, fakest two-way player I've ever seen, coming in, such a pick-and-choose defender mentally. doesn't communicate nearly enough on defense. His best defensive attributes are his one-on-one defense, and he doesn't even do that much because he doesn't guard elite players. And then we switch everybody besides their bigs. So if a team has Paul George on them, like, okay, let's put James Harden or Terrence Mann in the action. I'd still rather go at them. So it doesn't really matter. But anyway, Dan Craig being gone, I mean, I don't really know what to say. I think it's not the end of the world. So that's all I have to say on that. We'll replace him. Good. I mean, I wish Dan Craig all the best in his endeavors. But that's all I got for this one. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper. Let me know what you thought of what I said, what you thought of the series, and if you're still watching, and what you think the Clippers need to do as a result, and maybe even Dan Craig. And of course, keep shooting the episode ideas out. The age-old proverb continues, and if you want to hear me talk about those other games, my channel, Dime Dropper. Remember to subscribe to Locked On Clippers and hit the notification bell. And by the way, episodes coming the rest of the week. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.